Hello from Alcatraz. It's a very special day for us here today. It's the 1st of May and we are coronavirus free in the Ellada part of LS. So we're very happy. We're having a little party and I thought I would do this video just to help people who are wondering what the hell it is that we are doing at Universal Law Community Trust and why. Lots of family members obviously have been in touch with us regarding various activities, let's say, that the MFNs have been doing. And I just wanted to obviously bring everybody up to the same standing as the MFNs have got, while I still can. What they did is when the information was all released about your rights, your unalienable rights, they put up this hypothesis of this barrier of us and other people like us from going into the courts and putting ourselves into a position where they couldn't just rubber stamp their legal acts, which are criminal, in the eyes of the law anymore. So by us really learning what our rights were and standing on them, many people have gone and contested this bully state presumption that we've got some kind of obligation of performance to these private corporations. So when a policeman or an agent or a policy enforcer tries to imply an obligation of performance upon you, when your consent is given through the use of the legal fiction. So very simply, you just ask, have I got the right of use of something that doesn't belong to me? Obviously, the answer to that is no. And then obviously, if somebody is trying to coerce you to use something that doesn't belong to you, or to be the liability holder in due course of liabilities or charges associated to that thing that doesn't belong to you, then it comes down to you. Have you picked it up and used it? Have you claimed that thing as being yours? And when you do that, obviously, that's your consent. So, people have been learning this, obviously, and because of the amount of people who are learning this, the effects of that, such as going and restoring the rights to buildings. In order for us, we've done this in order for them to set themselves up, really, to be prosecuted themselves. So we've had some amazing results. Minister MFN 009 has been helping a lot of people in Blighty, practically. In practical ways, we've had the DVLA accept the indemnity cover, which is what we've been telling you all along. You are indemnified. They're actually trying to indemnify and have you underwrite and indemnify their commercial system. So when you stop doing that, and you remove the presumption that you are consenting to do that by giving your indemnification, if you like, your equitable rights to that legal fiction by not using it, then by default they're back. That indemnification is back in your hands. So we've got a document back from the DVLA now that they've dropped a case regarding a charge that was being implied against somebody to say that they weren't insured. The police had taken a car, forced it into commerce by using the commercial plates that were in the back of the car, removing the private ones. So what we are actually doing is you are physically getting them to execute the deed instead of just saying, well, it's legal, so I can do it. No, I'm in the lawful jurisdiction. I'm exercising my private capacity. I'm exercising my rights in my private capacity, and you have to force me into commerce. And when you force me into commerce, then you're the criminal. So this is why we do what we do, because the deed has to actually be done. Otherwise, it can be done by implied consent. So this is what happened there. The police took the car, they blackmailed the guy with his medication, and said, if you don't tell us that you're this legal fiction, then you're not having any medication. Well, great, we've got you now for forced commercial intercourse, theft of your rights to convey yourself freely, and a bit of blackmail to boot, putting the health and well-being of somebody in that position, blackmailing them with their medication for a heart condition. You obviously you can't stand there and say that I now represent the upholding of your rights in the community, completely dissolving that hypothesis that because I've got this uniform on, I'm a good guy. Obviously, the hypocrisy of that is you're dissolving that inside their own mind. They can no longer hide behind this legal gloss. So, and it only gets done by people doing things like the Emma Vents do, by making them actually commit these deeds. When it comes, push came to shove, then obviously CPS turned around and said they knew that that policeman was going to go on a stand and the roles are going to be reversed. It's a counterclaim. You're actually countering their claim. They're claiming that you've got some legal obligation, and by you actually doing what it is that these steps get you to do, you're rebutting that presumption. And then obviously if something is rebutted for 90 days, then the presumption that it can be defined as being true by acquiescence, it can't exist because you've rebutted it consecutively. So the CPS had turned around then and said, we'd like to discontinue the case. We said no. Then they said that the witness, the policeman, was on holiday, not the claimant now, the witness. So he was on holiday. Would we like to discontinue? And here's an offer of compensation and costs. Would you like to discontinue? No, we don't want to discontinue. The fact that the CPS have gone from their agents, standing by their agents and saying, yes, we're going to stand by you while you commit these charges, while you force these people into commercial intercourse, to do a full 360-degree turnaround and say that we don't believe that we can get a lawful conviction. No, you can't get a lawful conviction. The only lawful conviction that is going to be made in this instance is against the policeman, because he stepped out of his jurisdiction of the and broken his oath under which he's got the right to imply that he's got an authority to act in the first place, by wearing that uniform, to then come and break the law. So yes, it might be legal what he's doing, but it's only legal if you consent to it. So this is the results that people are now getting, and obviously they already knew that this is what we were doing. We've been doing this since 2017, but the magnitude and the amount of people who were doing it had reached such a critical mass that they had to create the coronavirus to stop us going into the court and to stop us sharing this information. So, and to sustain and compound the fear frequency. And that was what the antidote is. That's what the coronavirus antidote was. It's very simply, it was the truth. About the fiction and the fictional system that is implying that it's law. So today, it's taken us 90 days to rebut the presumption that coronavirus exists here in the Ellada part of Ellis. And last year, in 2021, the ministers 1191 and 128 and everybody who was aided and abetted us in restoring the rights to the people regarding Hillston Park. That's where we got coronavirus put in the court. And so what we're doing is we're taking the administrative charges, and by rebutting them or arresting the police or arresting those people who are trying to imply those, we're putting ourselves into a position where, yeah, okay, they might throw you on the floor, they might taser you, they might threaten you with 3 vaccines, and they might starve you, and they might do all of those things. But what you're getting back in exchange for going through that is just threats. Until you actually say, oh, okay, I'm a legal fiction, then their system, you're jamming the door shut. The legal fiction system cannot utilise your equitable rights because you just simply haven't given them. Now, what if you never had them to give them in the first place? What if you went that far out in your mind to realize or become aware that these, even the presumption and the implication that you had a share of this rock in order for them to utilize, was you realize that that wasn't true either. Nobody, how can you chop up this rock? And who has the right to claim that they've got a share of it? They did. They have claimed that you've got a share of this rock. And what if you'd say, well, actually, I haven't got a share of this rock. And if I did, I wouldn't give it to you because I've seen what you've done with everybody else's implied share of this rock. So I gave it away to somebody else. So if I did have one, which I'm not saying that I have, you are, then if I did have one, somebody else would have it. So even no matter what it is that you do to me, that I cannot give you something that I haven't got. And if I did have that thing that you wanted me to give you, you'd have to go over there to Universal Law Community Trust to get it. Because if I did have that thing, the implied share of the planet and its resources, then Universal Law would have it because it's Universal Law that created it. So then we've got people say, well, what is universal law? I don't know is the answer to that. I don't know what it is. I don't know how it works. I see it represented in the way that a baby is formed inside the womb. I see this thing that I'm trying to convey in a flower, in phi, compounded matter in a Fibonacci frequency of that which is alike upon itself. And that's what we've been doing, whether it's a sunflower being created, that which is alike upon itself, or whether it's fear and hate in our community, that which is alike upon itself. So all we know is that that much, that there is something that creates this creation. We're at best, we could probably claim that we were co-creators, but to claim that we actually created anything is, I believe, the undoing of us all. And that's the point where we are in breach of universal law because we're claiming something that we can't prove. And if we just boil it all down to the basics, the burden of proof is on the claimant, right? So why would you want to run around and say, this is mine, this name is mine? Did you create it? Did you copyright it? Did you turn it back to front and capitalize it and bold it out and hyphen it and all of those things? I mean, this is basic stuff, guys. You know you didn't do that. And if somebody, the whole point of the simplicity of this is very simple. If I take somebody's name and fix a contract with it and say that it's me, is that fraud? What is that? Let them answer you. And so if it's fraud, you judge, the judge of yourself now, you're getting them to judge themselves. If it's fraud, then why are you asking me to do it? And if it's fraud, then, and a large corporation takes all of our names and fixes contracts with it, then that must be bloody big fraud. And just see what happens. Why does this work in that way? Because the very bedrock of this hypothesis stands or implied to stand or exist upon you not knowing this, upon the undisclosed terms and conditions of the use of the legal fiction and all that it implies. And that's all you nearly needed to know, was what happens if I do this? We can see what happens if we do this because it's, look at around us and go and have a look at what happens if I don't do this. Well, quite simply, it doesn't exist. That thing that is initiated by you doing that thing, it just simply cannot initiate. So if you peel back your own layers from your own eyes and minds and get to the point where you see that there is only you standing in your own